The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Happy 5th of July. We had our 4th for those who were not with us. It was nice. It's not the same as having our friends with us, but it was very nice. Today I'm going to continue talking about the Paramitas. Generosity, precept, patience, and now vigor. They all work together along with the last 2, meditation and wisdom, our 6 Paramitas. Vigour. It's a translation of the Sanskrit word virya, which I've seen defined as benevolent effort, enthusiasm to perform virtuous acts, delight in virtue, I like that, and gladly engaging in wholesome activities, and also absence of discouragement, not getting discouraged. Virya, vigour. So there's an aspect of joyfulness, of enthusiasm. It's not a kind of forced effort, I've got to do it, Sometimes it's translated as diligence, and I don't like that so much. Diligence does seem like duty, but vigour has that joyful quality. Because plants have vigour. They grow with vigour, with enthusiasm, just doing what they do wholeheartedly. Vigour. But there are 2 aspects to vigour, or to virya, as you want to call it. There's the outward aspects, the virtuous acts, enthusiasm to perform virtuous acts. And there's also the inward aspect, working on ourselves and our own training, working hard on that. They work together. You need both. You can see them as the practice of compassion through outward helping beings, and wisdom, working on ourselves, compassionate activity to help beings, and wisdom to train ourselves, to work on our own mind so that we can bring that wisdom to our compassionate activity and bring compassion to our work on ourselves. They both work together, compassion and wisdom, and our practice of vigour. I'll come back to this. As we all know, there's a huge movement to address racism in our country, and it's spreading to other countries too. And I will say one thing. Racism has no place in Buddhism. This is not a political statement, it's the teaching of the Buddha. He himself allowed people of all castes to come and talk to him and to enter into his community as monks. This is really radical at a time when the caste system was really very strong. Anybody could come and talk to him, and people of all castes could come into his community. Brahmins, the highest caste, rulers and warriors, that was his own caste. They weren't the highest caste, they were the second caste. Interesting. Merchants and farmers, laborers, and outcasts, whom everybody else looked down on and shunned because they did the dirty work of cleaning toilets and cutting up meat and working with leather and that kind of thing. Everybody else shunned them, but he accepted them. He accepted them all of them. And this was revolutionary, and it's still revolutionary. So we have the example of the Buddha before us. And there's the sanctity of all life, the respect for all life. One of the basic teachings of the Buddha: do not kill, do not despise another being, respect all life. Take care of all life. So, just thought I'd say that. And here at Shasta Abbey and in our order, we welcome people of all kinds, all people, whatever race, whatever gender, orientation, age, occupation, political views, whatever, all those things that can divide people, we try to welcome everybody who wants to come, as long as they come with an open mind and respect, and can respect what we do. That's our only thing. But anybody can come. And of course, now we're closed. But when we open again, we will do that. We will open when we can. Back to virya, vigor in its two aspects. And we can see them in relation to this issue of racism as an example of how to practice these two aspects of vigor, with compassion and with wisdom. There's the outward aspect, doing what we feel is good and benevolent to help the situation, whether it's joining in protests or writing books or articles to explain the issues and help others to understand, or making donations to organizations that help. There's all different kinds of ways people can help with benevolent action, or not doing any of those things, which is also fine, because different people respond in different ways. And it's not for any of us to judge another person's response. We need to act with compassion and also with wisdom. What is actually helpful here? And judging another person is not helpful because it's just adding to the same thing, to what already is burning. So to respect everybody's response. As monks, we don't march and we don't join in protests. But as individuals, we may all have our view and do what we can to help. That's the outward aspect. And then there's the inward aspect of vigor. Looking at our own mind, seeing where we judge another person based on how they look or how we treat them as the other, not even seeing what we do that, as treating them as somebody who's not like me. And it can be so subtle we don't even know we do it. But how can we see this in ourselves? And not only with race, but also our prejudices and judgments in all sorts of ways. A person's gender, their age, their behavior, their education, their accent, their appearance, how they treat us. So many ways in which we judge another person, just right off, without knowing anything about them maybe. Can we see this judgment in ourselves? See it honestly? Looking at our blind spots? See what we're doing and truly change our judgments of other people? Can we educate ourselves and see those blind spots? I think we can. And to do this with compassion for our own ignorance and for the ignorance of other people. Compassion and wisdom, you have to have both. They both work together. To do activity in the world with compassion and with wisdom. To work on ourselves with wisdom and compassion. It all works together. And these are aspects of vigor, benevolent effort, delight in virtue, the wish to do what is truly good, both inwardly and outwardly, the wish to be a blessing to the world rather than a thorn in the side of the world. Another side of vigor, it's the antidote to laziness, to sloth and torpor. I love that, sloth and torpor. When you've been training and meditating for a long time, a certain kind of laziness can creep up on us, maybe complacency, settling into a rut. I'm a Buddhist, I'm training, I meditate every day, I'm doing okay. But losing that sense of vigor, that bright effort, and just sort of coasting along. Yes, I just do this every day, get up and do my thing. It's not quite enough. We need to apply some vigor. Or we're getting old, and we think, I can't train the way I used to, which is probably true. I'm too old, I can't make the effort, settling for less. But in fact, when we're getting old, we need to remember that we may not have as much time as we'd like, and we better keep up our effort. We need to do our best now, to use what time we have. This is always the case. But when you're getting older, it's more right there. We need to do our best in our training now. But with a bright-minded wish, not just a sense of duty. Well, okay, I better do my thing. I'm getting short of time. But this is what I really want to do. The aspiration for the way, aspiration to do what is truly good, aspiration to turn the heart. We might not be able to sit in meditation for as long as we used to, or sit cross-legged if we used to do that. We might get tired more easily. We probably do as we're getting older. But we can sharpen our aspiration. What do I truly wish for? How do I want to use my energy and my time that is getting less? What does the heart long for? To cultivate that wish, to turn the heart to what it truly longs for peace, for stillness in the midst of conditions, for wisdom, true wisdom, for joy, however it manifests for us. And this can be our practice of vigor when we're getting old and we can't do all we used to. How can I turn the heart, nourish that aspiration? We can all do that. If we have a chronic illness or constant pain, it saps our energy. How do we train with that, with vigor, with bright-mindedness, with as bright a heart as we can muster? It's not always easy, maybe not easy at all, but it's possible. To train with vigor in such circumstances is to train indeed. What can I do? How can I cultivate my true wish? Reverend Master Jiyu, we just did her memorial today. We went out to the stupa, circumambulated, offered incense. It was lovely. Thinking of her, how she cultivated vigor to the end of her days. For the last 3 years of her life, she could not walk. She could do less and less outwardly. But she was still the abbess, she was still in charge, she still knew what was going on, and she was able to make decisions, and she was able to cultivate that wish, to work on her own training. You could see her sitting there, just sitting still. The patient acceptance of her circumstances. She'd have loved to be able to get up and walk and do things like she used to, but she could not. So she had to accept it and train with as much vigor as she could, that bright-minded effort. And it was not easy, I could see. It was not easy for her, but she never gave it up. She never backed off. She never settled for less. We can do this. Wonderful example. Despair and despondency. There's a pervading sense of despondency and sadness in our world. The pandemic is still raging on. We thought it was getting better. Oh, good, we can start to do things. But no, it's come, people are still getting sick and dying. And now it seems to be getting worse again. And we might wonder, when will this ever end? Can we ever get back to normal and do what we used to do? Relax and be at ease? Maybe it'll never be like it was. Very likely it will never be quite the way it was. People have died, People are grief-stricken. It's different. And all the anxieties about livelihood and money and all the other things we worry about getting sick. So many causes for despondency. Grief, sadness, worry, and all that. And then there's despondency about ourselves. My training is terrible. I can't meditate. Or I still have all my faults, and I don't seem to be getting any better. If anything, I'm getting worse, and so on. So many ways we can be hard on ourselves and treat ourselves harshly. So we needed that. To have compassion, vigor, bright-minded effort, gladly engaging in wholesome things. This can help a lot with despondency when you feel overwhelmed by everything that's going on, whether inwardly or outwardly. When you feel anxious or worried or sad, how can we help others? What can we do? All these stories we hear of people going out of their way to help other beings. It brightens our own hearts, our delight in virtue. We all have a delight in virtue. You hear of somebody doing something really kind, or lots of people doing something kind. When you heard about the masks, people making masks, we rejoiced. Everybody rejoiced. Oh, there's something we can do. Wonderful. So many ways. Or the people who've just been faithfully working in hospitals and the like. or working in grocery stores, when you hear about all this. And that delight in virtue that we can feel when we see all this. And delight in our own virtue when we, do a little better. And these stories of other people doing virtuous things, helping beings, they inspire us to help too, to do what we can. How can we help in all the many ways? The vigour, the antidote to despair and despondency. The absence of discouragement, I like that, the absence of discouragement. To be encouraged, not to give up, not to give in to despair. It's all just too awful. I'll just turn over in bed and maybe it'll go away. This doesn't mean we don't look at our downheartedness, our despair and all that. We need to see it and accept it and not just sort of scuttle away and do something. But we can help ourselves by helping other beings, looking at what we need to look at, seeing what we need to see, and by helping other beings. The wisdom and the compassion, working on the inward aspect and the outward aspect. Cultivating our aspiration for the way, for the good, for our true heart's wish. That form of vigour. And helping beings, the outward form of vigour. And doing all the things we do, just living in this world with each other, is our vigorous practice. Just every day washing the dishes, raising kids, going to work, not going to work, doing what we can to help. It's all the practice of vigour, virya, the light in virtue, doing our best to help other beings and help ourselves. As I said before, all the Paramitas help and support each other. The practice of generosity, the practice of the precepts, patience, and now vigour to put all of them into practice. We can delight in virtue when we do a generous act, or somebody else does a generous act. We can rejoice when we keep a precept that we usually find really hard to do. I did not do the dreaded thing. I did not bite that person's head off. Rejoicing when we're patient with somebody we find difficult. Nobody else might notice. But we know that we have actually refrained from something. We can say, it's better. I'm beginning to work on this. Rejoicing in virtue, in our own virtue, not just everybody else's virtue, our own virtue too. Not just thinking, oh God, I'm so awful, my weight training is so terrible, but thinking, actually, I'm doing better. And I can continue to do my best in whatever situation I have, whether I'm well or sick, brightly alive or dying, as Reverend Master said, to do that vigorous practice, doing our best. Patience and vigour, actually, they balance each other. There's the seemingly passive aspect of patience, of not doing something often, and the seemingly active, the vigorous energy. Each partakes of the other, actually. As wisdom and compassion partake of each other. We practice patience with a certain vigour, this energy into not doing something. And we practice vigour with patience and wisdom, not just rushing off and doing things. All of them work together. And all of these paramitas work together with meditation and wisdom, the last two, the six. And we'll come to those at another time. And that's our talk for the day. Thank you. And we do look forward to being able to open our doors again, but it might be a while, the way it seems to be going. But there we go. Thank you.